Discovering Kazakhstan is Dennis Keen's biased view on culture and the modern life of Kazakh people. Amazing landscapes and architectural masterpieces all over Kazakhstan.
Здравствуйте, and hello. I'm Dennis Keen, and today on Discovering Kazakhstan, we're visiting the legendary southern city of Shymkent. Shymkent is famous for its traditions, for its people, but also for its food. I don't know whether it's the city's proximity to Uzbekistan, which is famously crazy about food, or it's the warm climate that makes such good produce, but there's something about the cuisine here that is really special. So today we're going to be exploring the bazaar, seeing how some of this food is made, and in general, just trying to soak up the atmosphere. I'm sure, like a lot of tourists, I was surprised when I first came to southern Kazakhstan and I found kimchi. But actually, there's been a Korean population that's been living in Kazakhstan since the 1930s, and they're famous for their salads. The most famous salad here, they actually just call Korean carrot salad. It's the shredded carrots that's mixed with garlic, some oil. It's got a really unique flavor, and it's ubiquitous. You can find it at almost every cafe. Another very popular item is what they call skvarja, which in Russian actually means asparagus. They call it soy asparagus. I've never quite figured out why exactly they call it asparagus, but it's this kind of tofu product that's really good for vegetarians. Another interesting dish that they have here is this fish. What Koreans are really good at is marinating. So they marinate this fish in these spices, and it's just full of flavor. I usually don't like a lot of fish, but the Korean fish is very good. Excuse me, can I try some fish, please? Fish? Yeah? Можно? Спасибо. What's great is that when you come to the bazaars here, you can sample almost everything, see if you like it. I've had this before, I know it's one of my favorites. Спасибо. It's so tender, it's so spicy, but not too spicy. I think they moderate it a little bit for the Central Asian taste. Tasty, thank you. Some local dishes are so popular that you can come to the bazaar and buy some of the materials, some of the ingredients already prepared. So for example, these guys are shredding carrots for a couple of dishes here. These thick strands here can be used for plov, the local rice dish which we can try. And these smaller ones are going to be used for those Korean salads. The most famous Korean salad being this carrot salad. So you can just come here, buy the ingredients already ready, and it's that much easier. One thing southern Kazakhstan is famous for is its wildflowers, which also means it has very tasty honey. Now what's interesting when you come and try the honey here is that it's unlike any honey I have back home in America. Back home it's mostly very clear, it's golden, it's liquid, but look at honey like this, which they call jantak. It's white like cotton and it's thick and crystallized, a totally different flavor. So they have steppe honey, they have mountain honey. And here, honey isn't just a food, but it's almost like a holistic medical treatment. So they can tell you that this honey is good for your livers, this one is good for your immune system. There's a honey for pretty much any kind of ailment. But in addition to just honey, they also make all sorts of other products with the honey. So actually, I just learned about this product. They call it mix of cosmonauts, because this is what cosmonauts would eat when they came back from space in order to get the much needed nutrients. So for example, here is honey mixed with walnuts, raisins, some kind of dried apricots inside of there. Looks very tasty and very healthy. But in addition to these kinds of honey foods, they also have all sorts of interesting medicinal products. For example, in addition to just honey, they use all sorts of other byproducts from the honey making process that I had never even heard before. This, for example, is called propolis. It's this waxy substance that bees use to seal their hives whenever there's some kind of problem. And you can use it for a kind of medicine. One time I went to the bazaar and I had a sore throat. We pinched off a little bit of this propolis, sucked that on in my mouth, and after a few hours it was gone. So it really works. Thank you. Very tasty. Aha! I found my favorite part of the bazaar. It's the bread section. Here, there's such variety. But really, the most popular kind of local bread is what they call naan. Just like in India, where they have naan, here in Central Asia, we also have naan. The naan here is always circular and it has this beautiful pattern in the middle, and it can be made either with water or with milk. The milk naan is a little bit thicker, a little bit tastier, in my opinion. Another thing you can see here is naan that's been mixed with onions, what they call piyaz naan, or this kind of very oily naan that they call khatama. This is pretty rare. I've really only seen this in Shymkent. Lately, it's been very fashionable not to make just circular naan, but also triangular naan. The taste is the same, but it just has a different appearance. When I talk to my Kazakh friends who lived in America, they always say that one of the things I really missed was Kazakh meat. Now sure, it's become a little bit more popular back in the States to have organic, free-range meat, but here it's always been that way. Here it's freshly butchered right in the bazaar, and you can get any cut you're looking for. When you come to Kazakhstan, everybody will ask you, have you tried kazi, which is one of the most famous Kazakh dishes, the kind of horse sausage. But what's great is that if you come to the bazaar, you can see how kazi is actually made. Kazi is an unusual kind of sausage, not just because it's made of horse meat, but because the meat isn't ground. Instead, the meat and fat is cut up into medium-sized pieces, rubbed with garlic and pepper, and then inserted into the natural sausage casing. We don't always know where our food comes from, but at the Shymkent Bazaar, you can truly see how the sausage is made. Kazakhs were traditionally nomads, which means that their cuisine is built around their main asset, their cattle. That means a lot of meat and a lot of dairy. So in this dairy section, you can find all sorts of dairy products that we don't even really have names or translations for, but I can do my best to explain them to you. One of the biggest real mainstays in any Kazakh dairy section is these little white balls that they call kurt. They are cheese curds that are salted and then dried for a long time. They're very hard, very sour, but every Kazakh kid loves them. Another thing we can see here is what's called idimshik. This is where milk is boiled for a long time, and they add some sugar, and it comes out kind of naturally sweet and soft. It's a very great snack that you can eat with tea. Some other Kazakh dairy products without parallel are the national drinks, kımız and shubat. Kımız is fermented mare's milk, and it often has an ashy flavor from the herbal ash that is rubbed into the fermentation barrels. Shubat is fermented camel's milk, and in Shymkent, it's called kımıran. It's a little bit thicker than kımız, but it has the same refreshing tang. One of the most colorful parts of any Central Asian bazaar is the dried fruits and nuts section. Of course, a lot of the food here will be familiar to you, like your almonds, your walnuts, your pistachios. But what's really interesting is the dried fruit here. There's all sorts of really different varieties of dried apricots. So for example, these small ones without pits, which they call uruk. Then you have bigger ones, which they call kuraga. Different flavors, but it's so rich with different vitamins and nutrients that it's almost like a great health food. Another interesting fruit is what they call alicha, which means cherry plum. It looks like a cherry, but tastes like a plum, and it's candied, so it's super sweet. Another interesting snack you can find here is the classic Uzbek dessert called hashtag. What it is it's uruk, which is this kind of dried apricot, and inside you have raisins, nuts, and honey. Altogether, it's super sweet, but also super natural and healthy. Another thing you often find is what they call halva. Now, halva is a sweet that you can find throughout the Middle East that's often made from the oils of nuts, usually sunflower seeds. But Tashkent halva from Uzbekistan and from Uzbeks in Kazakhstan is a little bit different. Here they use some dairy products, they use a lot more sugar to make it this sweet, creamy, nutty dessert. But perhaps my favorite is actually what they call here American nuts. And when I first heard that, I thought, what are American nuts? Because I didn't know we had our own national nuts, but actually they're pecans. Though they seem to have a different taste here. They're much better than any pecans I've ever had in America, but don't tell my American friends that, okay? If there's one thing that happens when you try so many samples at the bazaar, it's that you build up an appetite. So I'd like to go have a full meal, try some local food. When you're hungry in Shymkent, there's one dish that you can't really find in any cafe or in any restaurant. You have to have it in a Kazakh person's home. It is the quintessential Kazakh dish, besh parmak. And a couple of friends of mine who I know from America have invited me over to help make it and try it in their own home. Hey, salam.
Salam. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, Dennis, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Thanks. This is for you?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Please, welcome.
Oh, that smells good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Miraret is doing a great job. Miraret is the head cook of the home, and this is my old friend Maksat. Maksat is a real Shymkent Kazakh. He knows how to make the best besparmak. And I have to say, I've tried besparmak before, but I don't really know how it's made. So what do we have to start with?
First of all, bishparmak, it's all about meat.
It's all about meat. And actually, there's some people who just call it yet.
Yeah, we call it yet, we call it kamar auhat. There's like different names.
Yeah.
Especially depends on the Kazakhstan regions.
Right.
But mostly we call bishparmak and the yet.
So it's all about the meat.
We putting everything to the
Big
kazan, we call it
kazan, this
yeah.
big pot, just for boiling the
The
stuff.
big pot, yeah.
Yeah.
Boiling. Right now here two kind of meats.
Okay.
It's the sheep meat right now, and the kaza. If you can see it, it's
Kaza, which we saw at the bazaar before, actually.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
classic Kazakh horse sausage.
Yeah, it's a classic Kazakh horse sausage.
So Miraret is here rolling out the special besparmak dough.
Yeah, special beshparmak dough. It's like the classic dough for pizza, I can say.
Okay.
There's the flour, salt, water, and the eggs.
If you stop right now, we can just make a pizza.
Yeah, actually you can do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the pizza sauce, that's it.
Okay, similar ingredients. And so she's rolling it out with this long rolling pin.
Yeah.
And how thin should it be?
Let's ask Mirror. She says that it should be a little bit thicker than the paper.
Okay. So is there something that I can help out with here at all?
Yeah, of course, you can try it.
Now that the meat has
can
been
help.
cooking for a long time here, we have this perfect broth full of all sorts of the meat juices. And now that that's ready, we can take the dough that Miraret has rolled out and we'll put it in the broth, let that cook for a little bit. Okay. So there's a special method that we have to use for putting in the khamr. You have to lay it down. Whoop. See, I really messed everything up. You have to lay it down perfectly in the broth.
So
Like
it
here.
doesn't
So it doesn't all stick together.
stick together. Right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Well, thank you for preparing this for us because I've had besparmak prepared in homes before, but actually, I think especially in Almaty, in the big cities in Kazakhstan, not everybody actually prepares the head. But in Shymkent, you're very proud, you're very pure with your Kazakh tradition, so you can't have besparmak without the head. An essential part of Kazakh hospitality is what they call the dasarkhan, which is the place setting. It should be filled with all sorts of different kinds of snacks. We saw a lot of this at the bazaar today. So for example, we have the round bread, we call naan. Yeah. This is samsa.
Yes,
Samsa, kind of pastry with some meat and onions inside. This is Russian kind of crepes. Blini.
you can say
But Kazakhs might have their own version too. Pancakes, yeah. Kazakh pancakes. Wow, so this is really a surprise. This is the sheep's head, which is given to the honored guest at the table. But I do understand that there is a more honored guest at the table. At the end of the table, and the position is called a tur, is sitting our grandpa. So actually, I'm gonna give this to him. Better that you cut this up for us. I'm happy to try it, but we have to keep ranks here. Wow. So look how well that besparmak has been dressed up. There's so much on it, you can barely see the noodles underneath. I mean, that's a lot of meat.
I told you before, bishparmak is all about meat.
There's kazi all the way around, and the presentation is beautiful. You can see what a big plate of meat I have here. That's because these special pieces were given just to me. The jambas is the leg part of the animal that's given to an honored guest. And this part right here, which is called tus, is from the chest of the animal. That's given to anybody who's marrying a Kazakh woman. And I'm soon to be a groom here, so I have the meat of honor here. I want to thank my hosts, Maksat and Spandiar and Kurban, for having us here at this beautiful Kazakh dasarkhan The table setting is amazing. The food looks great. Shall we eat?
Of course.
Okay.
Enjoy.
I'm Dennis Keen. Thanks for joining us today. Watch us again on Discovering Kazakhstan. Ас болсын.